Hi, I'm Zibby Owens, and you're listening to the award-winning podcast, Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books. Please sign up for my newsletter at zibbyowens.com for weekly updates about my podcasts, events, and more. Also, follow me on Instagram at Zibby Owens and also at Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books. And finally, join my virtual book club called Zibby's Virtual Book Club, which meets every other Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time until 3 p.m. and features half an hour of book club discussion followed by 30 minutes of Q&A with the author whose book we've just discussed. You can sign up on my website, zibbyowens.com, under the Virtual Book Club section, or even on Instagram under the link in my bio. I hope you'll find me in all these different channels and enjoy this podcast. Today's sponsor is my bookshop.org store and my Amazon store. I don't know if you guys even know that I have these, but you should check it out because I sell all the books that I've had on this podcast, so you can easily find them and buy them. The bookshop.org site is bookshop.org/shop/Zibby Owens. And the Amazon shop is amazon.com/shop/moms don't have time to read books. So I hope that you will check out my Amazon influencer store and my bookshop.org storefront. And the bookshop.org storefront also has all the books from my Zibby's Virtual Book Club and some other suggested reads. So I hope you will check those both out and go shopping. Go buy some books from the podcast and support all these amazing authors. Paola, Mendoza, and Abby Sher are the co-authors of Sanctuary, and I did an Instagram Live with them about this book and want to tell you a little more about them individually. Paola is a film director, art activist, author, and artist working at the leading edge of human rights. As a co-founder and artistic director of the Women's March, Paola co-authored the New York Times bestseller, Together We Rise. She's a film director whose films have premiered at prestigious international film festivals and tackled the complex issues of poverty and immigration on women and children in the United States. She was named Glamour's Woman of the Year in 2017 and one of Filmmaker Magazine's 25 New Faces of Independent Film. Co-author Abby Sher, who I've already had on the podcast for her book called Miss You, Love You, Hate You, Bye, is an award-winning writer and performer. She's the author of many books, including All the Ways the World Can End, Breaking Free, Amen, 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 Memoir of a Girl Who Couldn't Stop Praying, and the young adult novel Kissing Snowflakes. Abby's work has appeared in the first season of Amazon TV's Modern Love, as well as in the New York Times, the Los Angeles Times, Self, Jane Elle, Hebe, and Redbook. Abby has also written and or performed for the New York Times, The New Yorker, The Second City, Upright Citizens Brigade, HBO, and NPR. In Sanctuary, co-authors Paola and Abby have crafted a narrative that is as haunting as it is hopeful. The young adult debut was released to critical acclaim and creates a future dystopia where siblings must escape a xenophobic government to find sanctuary.
Hi, Paola.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Sorry it took so long for us to connect on this, but congratulations on your book.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for reading it and having me here today.
Oh, you're welcome. It's a chilling sort of thought. What would happen if this was reality? How did you envision this alternate universe? Like, how did you think about it? And then how did you make it into a novel? Or did it all, which came first?
So I've been working in the immigrant rights space as a storyteller for over 15 years. And I've heard and had the privilege to listen to the stories of immigrants, specifically undocumented immigrants in this country, for a very long time. In 2018, the Trump administration implemented a horrible policy called family separation. And what that did, for those that might not remember, is that families that crossed the border, the southern border into this country, were ripped apart from their children, and their kids were placed in foster cares. Their kids were placed with strangers in some instances. And to this day, almost 3 years later, families are still, not all families have been reunited. So in that moment of despair and darkness, there was a group of us that started organizing against this policy, and we organized marches across the country. And I don't want to ever say good news, but there was a positive outcome in that the zero tolerance policy that allowed family separation as we knew it then, it stopped, and it was ended within 6 weeks. And then I started to imagine what would have happened if we hadn't stopped that policy. What would that allow the Trump administration to, what would he have done next? What would have been the horrible thing that he would have done next? And I started to imagine the beginnings of the world of Sanctuary, and I started to see this really scary, dark unfortunate place that I didn't want to live in, the United States that seemed possible, but definitely not the future that we wanted. And so I then asked myself, what's the answer to this horrible nightmare? And the answer was Valley, our main character, a 16-year-old in the book. And she's undocumented in the book, and she does extraordinary things to protect herself and ultimately protect her community. And that was the beginnings of Sanctuary. And then I started working with Sher, who's my co-writer, and the two of us really dug deep into the bones of the book and wrote this together.
And what made you decide to have a co-writer?
It's a great question. 3 things, if I'm being really honest. 1, I had written a book previously by myself, and I hated every moment of writing it by myself.
Okay.
It was I'm a collaborator. I love collaborating as an artist, as a writer, as a director. And that process was so solitary and so lonely that I was like, I will never do that again. That's 1. 2, also, the Trump administration working within immigration and telling stories of immigrants. What we've seen in the past 3.5 years is that Trump really attacks and dislikes immigrants, and his policies are really horrible towards immigrants. And so I knew that I didn't have the luxury at this moment in time to post up in my house for 2 years and just write a book. I knew that I was going to be needed to do other things on top of writing this book. And so in order to write this book within the 2-year time period that we had given ourselves, I had given us, because I wanted it to come out before the election, I knew that I couldn't do it alone. And so those are the 2 real answers. And I think the 3rd answer I would say is that I'm a better artist when I collaborate. All of my previous work, whether it's filmmaking, whether it's visual art, photography, writing, I'm a better artist. I create better. I enjoy the process better when I am collaborating. And I feel like my voice is actually much clearer when I'm collaborating. So I was excited to experiment with collaborating on writing a novel, which is probably the artistic process that has the least amount of collaborations in it.
So how did you do it together? Like, did you each take a section, or did you were you on the Zooms together? Like, what was the process like of your co-writing?
Everyone is very curious.
Yeah, I know. I'm
collaboration.
always so intrigued by this. How do people do this? It's like, it's like making magic together, as like a witch's brew or something. Anyway.
It is a witch's brew. It absolutely is. And we didn't set out with any specific rules in place. It just kind of fell into place. So we don't live in the same city. We live close enough, but not in the same city. So a lot of the work was actually done remotely. So Google Docs were our best friends. We wrote on Google, live on Google all the time. We would plan out the story more than just a detailed outline, specifically all of the action plot points of what was happening, when and how the character got here and what they encountered, and the conversation was about this, and it was a very, 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 very detailed outline, for lack of a better word. So we each knew where the story was going. And then that took obviously a very long time because it was so detailed. And then we would go and we would individually write, and our strengths revealed themselves. Abby is much more, her strength is in character and in detail, and my strength is in plot and in story. And so we each knew that that's where our mastery was, and that's what we gravitated to, though it doesn't mean that we didn't work on other aspects of it, because we did. At certain points, the drafts were just going back and forth, and we're editing and writing and editing and writing and going back and forth with one another. So it's unclear, exactly who did what, because it just becomes this witch's brew, as you said. We were just there stirring the pot.
Well, it's great you found somebody you could work so well with. I mean, that's so great. You are great at collaborating. I just feel like it's so easy to find the wrong person, or you can like someone a lot as a person, but maybe you don't
Absolutely.
work so well together, and you don't know until you know. And so hard to get into that when you're writing a book, I would think,
It's true. It's true. It's a marriage, but it's a marriage that will last a finite period of time. So
Yes.
Hopefully it doesn't end in divorce. In our case, it did not end in divorce. We're renewing our vows. So that is a good
Are you
thing.
writing another book together?
Yeah, that's the plan. We want to.
Awesome.
We want to write the second book to Sanctuary.
Maybe if marriage actually was for a finite period of time, more people would be able to be successful at it. If you knew, just saying. Maybe it's time.
You might be on something.
I don't know. Not that I want my marriage to end. I'm very happy. Anyway, back to the book. So tell me a little more about your background in film and photography and how it all kind of like, how all these creative juices seem to flow in you. How did this all happen? And how did you get started in all?
I started off as an actress, actually. I have my undergraduate and my graduate degree in the theater and acting and directing. And so that was what I wanted to do. But then I realized as I started working professionally as an actress that the life of an actress was not for me because I didn't want to tell the stories that were being told. I had other desires for the stories, and it was very unfulfilling. And I had nominal success. I was a working actress, but it was just not a happy place for me. And so I decided that I wanted to make a documentary. So I picked up a camera. I worked with one of my best friends. He had never made a documentary either. The two of us were like, let's figure this out. And we had a lot of filmmaking friends. So we called them and we were like, we have this camera. How do we turn it on? That's where we started. And we followed a family for about 1.5 years, really committed to their story, and learned how to make a movie while we were making a movie. Both of us did. And then we edited the film, learned how to edit while we were editing, and finished this film. And I fell in love with the movie making process. I fell in love with the ability to see a story, envision a story, and tell the story how I wanted to tell it. And then I was like, okay, that was a documentary. I want to write a script. Never had I written a script, but obviously had read so many plays. And as an actress, I'd read so many scripts. And I was like, I'm just going to try. And I worked with a friend of mine who had been my editor on the documentary. And I was like, let's write this script together. And she'd never written a feature script either. And she was like, okay, let's do it. So we figured it out. And it was based on my mom's story when we first came to this country. And the film is called Entre Nos. And I was like, well, I want to direct this. Let's co-direct it together. And so we co-directed Entre Nos. And that's kind of just been the process. My first book, the opportunity landed in my lap. And I was like, I've never written a book before, but let me try. And it comes from this idea of experimenting in different mediums, comes from actually something that when I taught quite a lot before I had my son. It was something that I told my students, and it's really this mantra that I live by as an artist. And I would tell my students, don't be afraid to create bad art. We will all create bad art. If you just embrace the fact that what you try and do might be bad, but it doesn't make you a bad artist, it's more freeing, because I look at my work and what I'm working on as the body of work that I will be that I am telling the story, the entire body of my work that I'm working on for my entire life. That will determine my value personally. And I'm not talking about the value to the exterior world, but my value personally as an artist. There might be some work that is way better than other work. And there might be, there definitely is some bad shit that I've created. But that doesn't determine my value as an artist, nor does the quote-unquote masterpiece I might have created determine my value as an artist. It's about the entirety of my body of work. And knowing that, it's allowed me to go out and experiment and try things that I've never tried before and get an idea and be like, okay, let's try it. Let's figure it out and let's try it and see if I like it and see if it works. And sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't.
Your son is so lucky, because that's like exactly what they tell you to do as a parent, is encourage your kids just to try and not to worry about if they're doing it well or not doing it well, because that's like how you end up creating all of this stuff. If you're afraid to try and fail, then forget it, right? So that's amazing and very inspiring. So now you liked writing. So this is now something you want to like keep doing and not just a one-time experiment. Do you prefer different media? Like, which is your favorite if you had to rank them? Just wondering, like film.
I think that I am more naturally a director, and that is definitely my initial voice. But in the past 3.5 years since Donald Trump was elected to the presidency, I realized making movies takes years to make. Writing a script and getting a movie produced, I tend to work in an independent film, takes a very long time. So I knew that I was not going to be able to do that in the Trump administration, that I was, again, going to have to be working on a much faster pace. And so all that to say is that I haven't made a feature film in a very long time, but my heart is like pulling me back to that. And I feel that that is kind of my natural zone as an artist, but to have the ability to experiment in other things is really exciting too.
So are you going to make this? Is Sanctuary going to become a movie?
That's what we hope. Yeah. That's what we're in process of. Crossing your fingers. Lots of things can happen, but that's what we're trying to make happen right now.
Amazing. Do you have any advice for people just starting out, writers, creators, anybody who could use your encouragement? Because you tried and look how successful you've been.
I would say, most importantly, don't be afraid to create bad art. That's really important. And 2, tell the story that is keeping you up at night. Tell the story that you can't ignore. Tell the story that maybe it's lived inside of you for decades, and maybe it just like got planted into your heart, or it just started whispering in your ear. But tell that story, because the road to creating art is a very difficult road. It is not easy. And everything in the world will conspire to make you stop. But if you have this story inside of you that you can't let go, that you can't ignore, you will be able to push away all the things that are telling you to not do it and get to the finish line and tell the story how you want to tell it. So be very protective and specific with the stories that you invest in.
And will you continue to be like an activist / creator? Like, would you see yourself as an activist?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I all of my artwork is social in its storytelling.
I didn't want to label you an activist if you didn't self-identify that way.
Yeah, no, I definitely self-identify, but I do as an activist, but I absolutely identify first and foremost as an artist. I'm an artist first and an activist after my art.
Awesome. Well, this is great. Thank you. And now we're going to talk to Abby, but thank you so much for coming on and discussing. And I'm sorry we can't all do this, all 3 of us. And I'm like a moron for not remembering that Instagram couldn't be 3 ways, but this is great too.
No worries.
So, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you. Okay. And I just want to say that the book is available at all bookstores. Just can click on my link or my name up there, and the link is in my bio. And please support women writers, Latinx writers, and please support immigration stories and go out and vote right now if you can, because early voting is happening now.
I voted.
Bye. Oh, good. Where do you live? What state do you live in?
I live in New York, but I got an absentee ballot because I wasn't sure if I would be in the city, whatever.
Right.
So I voted, so everyone can leave me alone.
Wonderful. I'm so glad. Didn't it feel good to vote?
It did. I felt like a huge relief, and I felt like I was happy to spend a month telling everybody that I already did it.
Good. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Take care.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, and now we're going to talk to her co-author, Abby Sher, and let me get her to join. Abby was also on my podcast for Love You, Miss You, Hate You, Bye, which was a fantastic book. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Where are you?
I'm doing something scary just for you, Sibby. I'm doing this from soccer practice for my son. And I'm sitting on a public bench, which freaks me out. But I thought walking around would be a little bit more disturbing. So,
did you put like something down, like I don't know, newspapers or some journal?
No, it's just me. Honestly, yeah, that's me.
Okay, it's gonna be okay. Yeah,
it's gonna be okay. I'm just gonna wash my butt really well tonight.
Yeah, get your clothes, put in the laundry. This is so typical. It's like mom's down at country books. You're at soccer practice. You're Instagram Live. You know.
Let's hope no one gets hurt. Yeah, I'm just gonna keep one ear over there.
Yeah. Well, I just talked to Paola. She was amazing, and that was so fun. And I didn't know her at all, so that was great. Or I hadn't talked to her at all. Tell me your side of collaborating with her and how it went on this book. I know you've written all by yourself and now together. What was it like?
Yes. Oh, I have to say, now that I've tasted the juice, it's really fun to collaborate. It really is. I do think of it as a very solitary writing as a very solitary sport, and I think I've whined for the past 10 years. Like, I just want to do this with someone. And it was really dreamy because we, as Paola said, like, I think we just gravitate towards different things. I gravitate towards the character side of writing, and she gravitates toward the plot. And it's not like we set that out for each other, but it really helped us because she had a vision of where these characters needed to go, and then I would need to get in their brains and be like, well, why would they choose, you know, I was staying up at night going like, well, why would they want to go into a desert? And she was staying up at night plotting out how physically they would get out of a desert. Spoiler alert, they get out of the desert, but you know that.
That's okay. I feel like you have this great skill of getting into the minds of, I guess, high schoolers. Or, I mean, I feel like your last book was all about, helping a friend through a really difficult time and getting through that period of life. And now we have Valley who's getting through this and like dealing with her brother and like eagerly sitting there while her mother, what's going on with her aunt and like all that anxiety you feel as like a pseudo adult. Tell me about that. Someone, Tori O'Connell just wrote, you're a YA savant.
Tori, that's because I'm stuck at that age. I think I've been told by many a therapist, like, are you sure that you're in your 40s? Because you act like a 15-year-old. Yeah, I think the teenage mind is really, like, I do think that in many ways, I'm emotionally stuck as a teenager. And I also think that they wear it all. Like, they have it all happening to them. They don't know how to hide it very well. I mean, they put on a good show, but they don't know how to hide their feelings very well, and they don't know how to process them very well. So it gives me as a writer a real treat to like try to process it with them. And I think we've been talking to some middle schools and high schools now, which has been really, really fun. So we're talking to students who are this age, and it's fascinating to see, like, Valley doesn't want to be an activist. Valley doesn't want to be a revolutionary. She doesn't want to be in the limelight. She doesn't want, she's not like someone who's even going to go try out for the spring play. She's a very thoughtful teenager. She wants, she's concerned about friends and lip gloss and like things that we all are concerned about. There's no part of her that's like, I'm going to change the world when we start the book. And she's forced into this role. And I think that's how a lot of us learn our skills, is that we're forced into it. I didn't want the circumstances I was raised in, and she certainly does not want the circumstances she's raised in. And so it was fun seeing a class the other day be like, well, like, how do you learn how to fend for yourself like that? Or how do you know that they didn't know, exactly what it meant to be undocumented. And Paola's really, really great at explaining it to any age. But it was really fun to see how a 16-year-old processes that literally, like, right in front of you.
Wow. I mean, yeah. A lot. I mean, Paola was saying she identifies first as an artist and then as an activist. Where are you on the activism scale? Like,
I think she's changed me. So I didn't start this book thinking that I needed to be an activist. I thought, like, moms don't have time to read. Moms don't have time to get out and, I'll march. I have my pussy hat. I will do all those things that I can. But at the end of the day, I also have soccer practice. Like, I don't know how to do that without somebody really falling through the cracks. But Paola has definitely inspired me to take more action. And I've brought my kids to a lot of marches. They did, family separation marches. And now I just don't even offer it as an option. I just say mom has to go canvassing. And if there is an argument, I guess it happens when I close the door. That's really great parenting. Don't take this advice.
I was sitting there thinking, wow, this is impressive. And if I say, like, I'm going to this doctor's appointment or something, they're like, why? Why can't you take this here? Why can't you do this? I'm like, I don't know. I just can't. So.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, there's definitely that. And then the more that they learn, then the scareder they get right now. Like, well, why are you going to a protest? People, can people shoot you at protests? Can you? It's a crazy time to be alive, and it's a crazy time to be raising children and trying to explain what's going on.
Wow. Are you one of these people who's asking everyone if they've voted?
Well, I will be honest. I have not voted yet. I have my ballot. I don't know exactly what I've been waiting for. I think I'm going to be so sad when I let it go. Like, I feel like it's my conch, but I have to do it.
Okay. Oh my God.
Yeah, I've been phone banking. That's not fun. I hate phone banking.
Wow. I know that Paola said she wanted to work on another book with you, and that's really awesome. Are you also doing stuff on the side just yourself, like for your own writing, or are you waiting to do another one with her?
I'm always noodling on something. So I've been playing with these characters for a long time. It's an adult book, I hope. Although I always say that and then it winds up being a YA book. So I'm trying to take it from the perspective of the mom for a change. And I've been working with Rebel Girls, which is a really fun company that started Goodnight Stories for Rebel Girls. And I love the spirit of that whole team. They just had a virtual rally this weekend, which was really fun, and people from all over the world joined in, and it was led by girls who are, young activists. And so I'm dipping into things, but my goal is definitely to write the next book with Paola and see what happens of these movie talks and things like that.
Excellent. That's exciting. Well, it's really good to see you again.
You too. I know. We talked right before this all happened, before the lockdown.
You were one of my last in-person, I feel like, interviews, and I don't know.
It was another lifetime.
Another lifetime. But now, through the screens, gotten to know a lot of people. So.
Exactly.
Anyway, well, congrats on this book and its success.
Thank you.
And, we'll stay in touch.
Okay. Take care. Everybody stay safe.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much to today's sponsor, my bookshop.org and my Amazon influencer store. You can check out my Amazon store at amazon.com/shop/moms don't have time to read books, and my bookshop.org store, which is bookshop.org/shop/Zibby Owens. And I hope that you will find every book that you are looking for. Thanks. Thanks for listening to this episode of Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Zibby Owens and at Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books. Also sign up for my newsletter at zibbyowens.com and sign up for my virtual book club and meet lots of authors on Zoom every other week. Thanks so much to Steve and Ryan at Texture Sound for the sound editing. And thank you to Morning Moon Productions for providing this fantastic intro and outro music.